Not too bad. We're doing rough plumbing, rough mechanical.
It seems like it's gone up pretty quick.
Yeah, we're still finishing the frame. I hope to get them in before Christmas, but I don't know. Everybody uses Thanksgiving, Christmas, or first of the year as a deadline.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to do that.
Yeah, this
Have
year.
to wait on.
Yeah, it's been brutal this year. Supply chain.
Yeah.
It does. It gets, there's so many apartments and townhomes going up that a lot of the material is, as soon as it arrives at some of these, it's gone that day. So you come in a half hour late, we've had luck. So.
Diane, did you send out an amended agenda?
I thought so. Updated one. I saw an updated one.
It's on the same email. Okay. All right. Okay. So welcome to the Providence City Administrative Land Use Authority. It's Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, about 2:30 in the afternoon.
You might need your mic to just make sure we capture you loud enough.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I'm Scarlett Bankhead. I'm the chair. We have Max Pierce, our city engineer. Rob Stapley on my right is our public works director. We also have Ryan Snow, our city manager, in attendance. Tyler Cameron, our city recorder. Diane Campbell, our zoning specialist. April Fredrickson is our code compliance and stormwater specialist. We have 2 items on our agenda today. Our first item, both of these are for conditional use. Our first item is an in-home hair salon, and we will consider for approval a request by Nicole Shears. By Nicole Shears for an in-home salon located at 316 West, 300 South in Providence. And Nicole, if you would like to come up, you can both come up. If you want to come and sit at the table so you can speak into the mic. And we'll have Diane introduce this item for us.
Okay. This application came in August 26th. Rob did his infrastructure inspection on August 27th, and we have a letter from Aaron Walker, the fire inspector, for September 2nd. The finding of facts are as listed on the staff report. Conditions of law, we use Providence City or Utah Code 109-507, which has to do with conditional uses. Sorry, I'm not quite there yet. Providence City Code 1035 establishes standards for reasonable conditions, and Providence City Code 1061 provides that barber and beauty shops are permitted by conditional use as a home business in a single-family traditional zone. And the applicant meets the requirements and the findings of fact with the following conditions. And the conditions are all listed on the staff report. Do you want me to go through the conditions since they're a little bit different than what we usually do?
That would be great. Thank you.
The applicant will apply for a business license, which I think she's already done. The applicant will meet the requirements for a home business as listed in Providence City Code 345. The applicant will meet the requirements listed in the fire inspector review. The applicant will operate the business in the manner described in the site and business plan. The applicant will continue to meet all federal, state, county, and Providence City rules, laws, codes, and ordinances related to the operation of a home salon. Approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and/or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated.
Nicole, would you mind stating your names, please, so that we know who's here and it's on our record?
My name is Nicole Shears.
Shears.
You'll probably have to pull that mic really close to you.
My name's Nicole Shears.
I'm Rob Shears, their husband.
Okay, thank you. And did you get a copy of the staff report, the information that Diane read from?
Yes.
And do you have any questions or anything regarding
No.
that?
I just want to state, I'm not going to be a hair salon. I'm actually a skincare salon.
Okay,
So I'll be doing skincare services
okay.
and hair removal services, but nothing else with hair.
You're not gonna give people purple hair or
No.
that type of thing? Okay. In your business plan, since it references that we're going to follow the business plan, there was a business plan submitted to us. Even once you have your clientele built up, you're stating that you won't have more than 20 clients a week.
That's correct. Yeah, that would be the most. I would
Okay.
have, and only at most 2 clients at a time. Because it's just me working there. I don't plan on hiring any other employees.
Okay, that's also stated in your plan that you don't plan to hire anyone. And then you're going to have, the area is 300 square feet. And it includes the waiting room, a bathroom, and a treatment room with a sink.
That's correct.
You've got 6 parking spots, which will suffice even in peak hours. So do you want to explain your parking spots just really quick?
So our driveway is enough for 3 vehicles. And then we also have additional an L-shaped driveway on our property that would provide for additional parking. So
Okay,
there isn't any reason why anyone would ever need to park in the road.
okay. And you, your hours, Monday are closed, Tuesdays 10 to 5, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., Wednesday 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Thursday closed, Friday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Sunday is closed. Is that
That's correct, yeah.
okay? And you've also, did you say you had submitted your business license application? So you've gone around and talked to your neighbors and
I have, yes. I talked to them and I got their signatures. All of them that are near that it will affect.
okay, that they don't have to approve. We just ask that you notify them and so they know what's going on in their neighborhood. This does say that it will be providing skin care services for all ages of women, which include facials, hair removal, lash lifts, and tints. So you might use purple eyebrows.
Maybe if that's what they want.
And brow lamination and tints. Max or Rob, do you have any questions or concerns?
I do not.
I don't.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, we do have a separate entrance to the salon, so they won't be coming through the front. There's a separate entrance around back. It's concrete the whole way. So I don't see any problems.
Okay. All righty. Generally, if we do get complaints about a home business, it's usually about increased traffic or parking problems. Sometimes it's noise, but usually it's got to do with the traffic and the parking. So I think as long as you control that, should be good to go. With that being said, I would entertain a motion to approve the request for conditional use. The request by Nicole Shears for an in-home salon located at 316 West, 300 South in Providence. Based on the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions stated in the staff report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
The motion is by Rob Stapley. The second is by Max Pierce. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Voting was unanimous. So thanks so much for taking the time and coming and visiting with us. Diane will get a record of decision once she gets the signed record, once she gets that ready and brings it to me and I review it and then we'll sign it. then Esther can issue your business license.
Great, thank you.
All righty. Thanks again for your time. Okay, our next item of business, we're going to consider for approval a request by Pillar Homes for Brent and Idina Ward for a retaining wall located at 879 Grandview Drive in Providence. And we do have a representative for them. Want to come up and state your name, and then Diane can introduce this.
Okay, this application came in on September 3rd and Rob did his inspection on September 7th. Findings of fact are on the staff report, which everyone should have. Conclusions of law, the only difference in what we usually have is this parcel is in a hazard wildfire and slope areas. Let's see, the applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, and province city rules, laws, codes, and ordinances. The applicant will mitigate slope areas by, and we have some engineered plans for the retaining wall that I sent out with the packet. This conditional use is for the retaining wall only, as shown on the plan dated September 7th. Approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Province city's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. The original packet didn't have the GIS parcel summary in there, but I think I sent that out a little afterward.
So this retaining wall, it's 3 feet from the property line, and the detail that you gave us had several heights. A 4 foot, a 6 foot, an 8 foot, and a 10 foot. What are we really putting here?
So the engineer, he just put all those heights in there. We weren't sure how high it was going to be as we went up, kind of up towards the road. So, but it turns out the back of the wall and turning the back west wall and turning the corner is going to be 10 feet, maybe 10 and a half. And then the next section where it steps up will be 9 feet. And then the next section stepping up will be 7 foot wall. And that's the height. We don't have any 4 foot wall or 6 foot wall, 7 foot wall. So right around there.
Okay. For the record, will you state your name, please?
Oh, sorry, Dave Belknap. I'm
Thanks.
the owner of the homes.
Okay, thank you. And you got a copy of the staff report. Do you have any questions about that? So, starting from the east, I think it's the east.
The house, the front of the house faces east and the back of the house faces
Okay.
west.
All right, so starting from the east, your retaining wall, is it going to stay level and then it's going to go down, or?
The top retaining wall will be the same height and the whole thing coming on from the back of the home, the outside towards the road, they'll all finish at one height. But the footings step down 2 feet in two spots. So that's pretty different elevations on it.
So is that height you're saying, is that from the footing? That's not from final grade, right?
From the footing, yeah, from the footing.
So final grade, it's not going to be 10 feet. It'll be maybe a couple of feet less.
No, the final grade will be 10 feet. On the retaining wall from the garage is a side entrance garage. And that's why we have to, put this retaining wall in so we can build up their driveway, because they're entering from the side of the home. And then we'll slope it from the front of the garage out towards the retaining wall. There'll be a curb that will be created from the top of the retaining wall to where the driveway hits that retaining wall. We'll have to put a slope on the driveway. So we'll probably show about probably 8 inches, will end up showing of the top of the retaining wall. And that's about all that will be built up. And then off the west side, the back of the home, we're going to build that up, and they're creating a ramp that just kind of goes down into the backyard. That's their only access into the backyard after we get done with the home. And the north side of the home has a 10-foot setback. There's no access to the backyard. So eventually they're going to build up a ramp, like a dirt, going off that back retaining wall coming so that they can drive through and go down to the backyard. For now, we'll just have a retaining wall and build it up to the driveway so we can enter the side of the home. That's the plan.
So on the west side of the furthest west part of the retaining wall, then the ground is going to come up to it on
Yes. So really, I mean,
what, like a 6% slope, 12%
I don't
slope?
know. To be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, I think we'll have to bring it out quite a ways to get a slope on it, enough where they could use it as an access to get into the back of their property.
So then when you start going down the hill, are they going to have to extend the south retaining wall to the west?
So yeah, off the back of the home, we'll have to do some rock retaining walls, but we have enough room between. They have an entrance on the back west side going underneath the garage. The garage is a suspended slab, and we have enough room in there that we're going to go 4 feet and then create a 3-foot area flat, and then go up another 4 feet. And so we're going to step it with the rock wall to create that ramp. The retaining wall, really the west side of the retaining wall, is almost going to be negated by the ramp. I mean, really doesn't, at that point, really doesn't need to be there, but we're pouring it anyway just to have it there. We're not sure how soon we're going to create that ramp and create the going to the backyard. We don't know how soon we're going to do that.
So is that why you didn't show the west the south wall going further to the west? Because aren't you going to have to come back and see us if you're starting at 10 feet and going down? Or maybe I'm confused. On the south side, how high is from the south property line? Is there any bit of a slope there, or is it going to be? It's going to be flat, and then it's going to bounce up.
Yeah.
So the southwest side is going to be 10 feet
Yes.
of exposed concrete?
Not quite 10. It'll be, we'll backfill it up a little bit. We only got 3 feet from the wall to the property line. So the engineering shows that we have to have at least 18 inches of backfill up under the wall above the footing. So we'll backfill it a little bit on the south side. Then coming off the southwest corner, we'll have to build some retaining rocks going down to create that slope. Eventually, I don't know how soon we're going to do that, but for now, for them to be able to get into the home, get into the side entrance garage.
The side entrance you're talking about is on the south side of the house. There's an entrance that'll be up high. They're building that up so they can get it.
Thanks, Rob. Do you have you got any questions?
The south side of that retaining wall for the neighbor on the south, it's going to be a big concrete, wall.
So you'll be putting it a little ways off the property line and not inhibit the existing landscape of the neighbors to the side.
Yeah, we poured the footing is 5 foot wide. We poured the edge of the footing 1 foot in from the property line, and with the wall sitting in between, in the middle of that 5 foot wide footing, that's where we end up with about 3 feet of the wall to the property line. Trying to give them as much as possible so they can turn and get into the house. But that's as much as I could give them. Our first thought was to do a rock retaining wall on that instead of concrete retaining wall. But with the rock wall, we decide we're gonna be up, closer to the house, building it in, they would lose a lot of turning ability, radius ability in the side of the house. So then decide we need to do a concrete retaining wall.
Did we talk about all this when we approved this house?
No,
Because we have a problem.
I didn't, I don't think they're 100% sure what they wanted to do. I had the engineer, because I talked to the engineer about it when we engineered the plans. I said, there's a possibility we're going to put a concrete retaining wall, so we drew the engineering for it. But I wasn't 100% sure that we were going to do it. And then we decided to give them enough room, create enough room for them to turn to the side of the home.
That's where I'm concerned. In our city code, and that's why I was wondering if we knew about all this.
We didn't have it on site. We
Okay.
drew it on site plan.
In our city code, Title 10, Chapter 8, which deals with setbacks, in Section 3, then there's a part in there that's specific to retaining walls. And it limits what you can do. And it says greater than 6 feet in height, rear and non-street side setbacks for retaining walls greater than 6 feet in height, or where the exposed side of the wall faces out from the subject parcel without regard to height shall be subject to the same requirements as the main structure in the applicable zone. It means you've got to be 10 feet off property line. What happens? You're only 3 feet. What does that do to you if you reduce that wall reduce the platform 7 feet?
Lot's not wide enough.
It shows it's 30 feet off the home on the side.
Yeah, it's 30. The setback is 33 feet right now to the garage,
That's how you read that, right?
from the property line to the garage. And so 30 feet is where we end up with where we have it right now, 3 feet off the property line. So if we shrunk it 7 feet, it would really inhibit their ability.
What if you take the wall down to a height of 6 feet to 10, and make the driveway steep, can you do that? Or is it going to get too steep?
That would be almost 4 feet lower than getting into the driveway, into the garage. So I don't know how I would create that to get into the side of the garage. Not being all the way up.
This isn't a touch screen. I'm thinking, why is my screen relighting?
Greater than 6 feet in height, rear and non-street side setbacks for retaining walls. Greater than 6 feet in height, or where the exposed side of the wall faces out from the subject parcel without regard to height. So subject to the same requirement as the main structure. Yeah, so I agree with this, but I interpret it that way.
Unless there's some way on the south side where that side is going to be the big exposed side off the property line. Build that up so that it's only shows only has 6 feet exposed, only have 3 feet to work with. If there was some way to build that up, it only shows 6 feet. That'd be a possibility. Right now, it's only going to we're only backfilling it about 18 inches above the footing, a little bit higher in some spots because where it steps. But with that 3 feet, I definitely could do something to get it up to where only 6 feet is exposed. There would be a kind of step down to the right to the property line. But
Code you just read didn't have regard to this. I did, which is what got me a little bit curious about your code. I know there's plenty of side yard retaining walls.
Well, it does have, there is something to it, the height. But what it said is where the exposed side of the wall faces out, then it doesn't matter.
Which is generally always the case.
Yeah. But retaining walls from 3 to 6 feet in height may be located within a required non-street side or rear setback in any residential zones and any setback area in a non-residential zone, provided the exposed side of the wall faces into the subject parcel. So
Typically, these walls that we're seeing get put up should be if on the side yard or in the front portion of the parcel of the home. 10-foot setback. Probably might help.
if they've got their exposed side to the neighbor.
They're holding their stuff in instead of holding their neighbor out.
Exposed side, build it up so I can only show on 6 feet of foundation. Not quite sure how to do that, but
And you have a ramp into the garage.
There's already
it
going to
would
be
be
quite
just
a bit of ramp. There's a steep hill coming off of Granby down this lot. They're
from
already
the,
gonna,
from the road to the home. The home's actually lower than the top of the foundation is 4 feet lower than the road. So it drops down and it goes up to where the driveway area will be in front of the 3-car opening on the side of the home. And so when you get down there, the only way for that wall, especially the southwest corner, I wouldn't be able to slope the driveway that much to get it down to 6 feet. It would just be too steep. So I can give it about 6 inches of slope and 30 feet. It's about all it needs. I can go up to 8 inches and probably be okay, but that wall would still be on that southwest corner, especially, it would still be. The back side, like I said, the west side eventually will be mostly covered. It's just the south side of the property line will still have probably about 9 feet showing, 8 to 9 feet showing on the south side.
So you could go a little steeper than you're saying, though. I was just calculating that 4% for that 30 feet, which is still not terribly steep on a driveway. Would give you 1.2 feet of fall out of the garage.
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh, you can even go steeper than 4 if you wanted. I mean, there's a lot of driveways steeper than 4%. But to do the full 4 feet, that puts you at a little over 13%, which is pretty steep.
Yeah. Steeper I go, a little more. I mean, we'll have to put a railing up. I get a little more concerned about backing in and out of that driveway. The steeper in and out of the garage, the steeper that driveway is.
If it's
That
slick,
drop off.
yeah, if it's slick, the car slides down and off the wall.
Yeah. Unless I have, obviously I'll have to put a retaining wall, put some kind of railing there, but. So I can put a pretty good, like you're saying, I can put a steeper slope on that driveway for sure. But will I get down to 6? Probably won't get down to 6 on that southwest corner. Only way I can do that is to build it up. That 3 feet I have to work with, build it up somehow to get it to the 6. Think of to make it more acceptable.
What is your slope there proposed now in that 3 feet? A 3 to 1, a 2 to 1, 2%, 3%?
2%. It's about an inch every 6 feet. What I typically do.
Okay.
So in 30 feet, I'd be 5 inches. But I'd probably go. I was going to go 6, but
Well, I mean, on the 3 feet that's outside of the retaining wall, what are you doing with it? I mean, it sounded like you were kind of flat.
yeah, once you get off the street and get down, it's a little more flat. So to build up that south side, I guess here's my how to South side.
Always is fairly minimal and just have to blend and match.
Yeah,
To what the neighbor is.
yeah, just on this wall. Could be all around, rocks. He's in the process right now with a home on the south side of, a whole bunch of rock retainage. Not very tall ones, but some terracing of rocks.
To the east side of his house.
Yeah, on the side of some, yeah.
Well, here's my concern. I think before we can act on this, and there's two other people here that can tell me differently, but I think we need to have you go back to the drawing board and come back and figure this out, how it's going to be able to fit within our code and still achieve a safe access for these guys. So, because I myself don't feel comfortable approving it with as many unknowns as we have. But what say you?
Is a rock wall considered a retaining wall under that definition?
Yeah, let's see what our,
That's one question I have. The other question I have is whether or not you can do 2 retaining walls, step terracing, that would be less than 6, and would you be okay then? Or would you did 2 4-foot retaining walls next,
But if you do that, then you have the 5-foot, or depending on the size of the base, then you're stepping up and you're having a footing, right? And then you're putting in the middle of the footing. That's what you're come up, set another footing, come up.
and I'm thinking that maybe possibly you could terrace. In other words, the 3 feet is not nothing terribly magical. You can push it closer to the property line if you need to. And then you can terrace and still wind up close to the same place with 2 4-foot retaining walls. Potentially. Could cost you more because you got 2 footings and so on and so forth, but I looked out the excavator when we were, because when he was backfilling, we looked at it, we kind of mapped it out. That was the original plan, was to do that. And we decided that we were going to end up being like 8 to 10 feet off the property line, on that south property line. And then by the time we poured the driveway, we want to get the driveway so close to those rocks that we came that. And so we were going to lose so much that their ability to turn into the home was going to be really minimal. Well, that's with rock. Well, I'm thinking doing two concrete retaining walls that are 4 feet high. Okay. Then you could put them, say, a foot between the 2 walls instead of, you put one closer to the property line, a foot off the property line or whatever, then another foot between the next wall, and you probably wind up being real close to the same distance to the garage, is what I was wondering.
My thinking of the 3 feet, maybe not magical, but if you look in the 10-foot retaining wall, your footer is off two plus feet.
Right.
So within that 3, I mean, you can't move it more than that retaining wall, and you've already got the footers poured. So to move the footers, you've already got footers poured. So moving that is not going to help you.
So what happened was I submitted the plans to the county. The engineering for those retaining walls was with the plans. And I assumed that we were okay. Retaining wall, the zoning part was the part that I didn't think about. I thought the retaining wall, I thought it would be okay, parts of property lines. Yeah, I didn't realize sure. So the 4-foot retaining wall, he has 1 foot, 1 inch on the short side of the footing. That's why.
Oh, the 4 foot, right, okay. Yeah, I was looking at the 10, you're right.
So they came and we set up the footings, ready to pull it, have the pump truck there, concrete. And the inspector from the county came to look to inspect the footings. And so, well, I don't have a permit for this. And that's when I was first aware that I had a permit for it. He said, but go ahead and pour, and just get your permit. You should be okay. So
To answer your question, Max, we don't have a definition of the retaining wall, what it can be,
Okay.
whether it can be rock or it has to be concrete. We don't address that.
Okay.
My question when he comes back, because there is different rebar requirements for the different heights, it'd be nice if that was clear.
Yes. That's nice that they've got all those on there because you didn't know for sure what you were doing. But when you get this narrowed down, we need to know exactly what you want to do. So we can make sure that you are within our city code. Because the neighbors will definitely let April and I know if you're not. And then we have to, we can't permit you to do something that violates the code in the first place. But even if you went ahead and kind of went out there and reworked it and it ended up not quite like it should be, and they let us know, then we're gonna have to say, you gotta tear it out, you gotta fix it.
Who would let you know?
When the neighbors let us know. So no
He's aware
fudging.
of it. I went over and talked to him, explained to him exactly what was happening. So he is aware of that neighbor to the south.
When you build the ramp on that back part, then how much is going to be exposed when you do that?
So with the ramp is only going to be the access. So as that driveway comes down off the road, goes alongside the garage, that ramp will only be 18 feet wide. So 6 feet from the outside corner from the house. We'll actually have to put railing on it, but the part that passes through will be 18 feet wide. Right now it's, right now we've got it drawn at 30 from the house, the retaining wall. We're only going to use 18 feet and create that ramp going down into the backyard. And that's where we were going to put some retaining rocks to build that ramp up, retaining rocks off the foundation, outside corners of the foundation, and ramp it so we can get access to the backyard. So really that the retaining wall on the west side becomes kind of, but we after you build that ramp, it's not even, it doesn't really need to be there. But we decided to get the property line, to give them enough room to pull into their side of their garage. We decided to go back and go ahead and do a concrete retaining wall because we decided on the south side with the rock retaining wall, they were losing too much driveway space to be able to turn and get into the side of their home. So that's when we went ahead and excavated for concrete retaining wall.
So even with that ramp, it's just going to be that southwest corner still showing.
Yeah, just the southwest corner.
The final
Facing
grade, you
south.
can't do it a little bit higher at all, even with planning on doing the back retaining stuff.
That's where that 3 feet, I mean, I'm pretty sure I could build it up right off the property line, either with another like non-engineered retaining wall, concrete wall, and build that up right off the property line so that we're only showing 6 feet. It would end up becoming a planter box or something, and then we'd only be showing, build up so we're only showing 6 feet. And on that, it would just be the south side of the retaining wall.
Would that fit in the code if they did that?
So you on that south side towards the west, probably the first, I would say 20 feet at least, to a 4 foot. And only showing 6, but that's the
So
only solution I can think of.
It does sound like there might be some redrawing or rethinking that ought to happen. I know that
Because
that's
I
a
know
steep
some that
slope.
do that where they have the
I know.
planner, because the Smith house,
Nancy to the north. Lives to the north of this parcel. Nancy. Ashley Nance. Yes. She's the one that lives to the north side of this. I've looked at her driveway numerous times. wondering exactly how well her stormwater measures handle the storms.
Because it's only got 3 or
So
4 feet outside of the garage to where it just goes right up. Pretty steep grade up to the road.
So I have another question on the south side retaining wall. If I'm standing on that wall and I'm about, let's say I'm in the middle out of the wall, so what's the length of this retaining wall from east to west?
42 feet.
So let's say I'm standing 20 feet east of the west side, and I'm on the top of the south wall, and I jump off the wall. How far down am I jumping? Aren't you gonna need a retaining railing on that?
Yes.
So I don't know if a fence and a railing are considered the same thing, but then we're getting into height restrictions on our fence code with it as well. When you start adding fence on top of.
Have to be a kind of guardrail.
Yeah, I would see that as a different, I mean, to me, that's a guardrail, not a fence. But that's how I see it.
Well, I think it
Doesn't mean
depends how
everybody
they-
sees it that way, but-
what they build on there. I mean, if they build a fence on there,
Well, yeah.
If it's a privacy fence, then
it's a fence.
it's a
Well,
fence.
Whether it's serving as a guardrail or not, or even if it's one of those wrought iron looking fences, if it looks, because to me, a guardrail may be 1 or 2 slat type things that looks like a guardrail, but if it's a fence, we might get into some trouble on the fence ordinance.
The homeowners don't want a fence on it. I know they want a fence, like what we consider a fence. There's a possibility that depends on what the county wants me to do there. And you'll have to have some kind of guardrail, but it could be just ballards that from each bay, we'd have a ballard, so far apart, and then we just run some kind of guardrail to protect it. I'm not 100% sure what they'll want there. They'll want an actual railing, like an interior railing where the balusters are 4 inches, maybe more than 4 inches apart. I don't know if they want that, but it's an unknown. I don't know yet. I know the homeowners don't want like a privacy fence. I do know that they won't put a privacy type of fence.
Well, what do you think, Rob?
It sounds like there's a little bit more engineering and thought to just go towards the site plan. I'm opposed to continuing this until we can make sure we match the code and not violate any codes. Come up with a final game plan that everybody's happy with, because there's unknowns and the homeowners need to get involved in this, it sounds like. This driveway, also it depicts the water. I don't see my report in this packet, but it shows the water on the north side going into the home, but I believe it's right in the driveway.
It is, we're removing that. There's a circle driveway in the front of the home, and so we're actually, the water, I think we talked about this on the first meeting that we had, that water barrel, we'll have to move it. It'll be more centered with the entry door, is where that water barrel ended up being. And I can't remember his name, he came out from one of the utility guys here in the city.
Probably Gerald.
Yeah, he came out and looked at it, and what he told me is from the existing water barrel that we'll have to run copper to the north over to the new water barrel, and then from that water barrel we can run poly to the house. But he wanted to see copper, and he wants us to position that yoke so that whoever looks in there, or if he ever blue stake it again, they can see that it comes from the north, or that it comes from the south, and it's copper, and then so that yoke will be faced north and south. And we have to run copper from the old one to the new one, and poly from the new one into the house. So
Sounds like a water containment plan you got laid out there. This site plan just shows it clear on the north side of the property. So
I think the architect just generically put it
put
in
it
there.
on.
that was the plan. I'm sure, look at that. So that's what we need to do for the water bill. The water bill is quite low right now as it is. And the top of the yoke has to be within 18 inches of the lid. And so the existing ones, if we were to build that up at all for the driver, anything that it would be just way too low. So the new one will get a better
Sounds like you'll be
position.
dropping off the road down to the garage level. Some degree.
Yeah. That's what I'm for water.
You'll have to contend with an irrigation line as well, right?
There is an irrigation line going through there. Yeah. And earlier when I first looked at it, there's a diverter right there on the north corner by the road into that property that's to the north. They had the water diverted running west. Then I looked at it about a month again. A month later, I looked at it and they actually had the water running south. So how much
There's two different legs to what's called the bullet lateral there. And that's the diversion for the two different main legs of that ladder. Both do get used still.
I showed it to them as far as the excavator. So this is what we're dealing with. Got a hand dig for your, make sure you're careful where it's at. I didn't know if that irrigation line keeps running parallel with the road. I mean, it looks like it comes out to the backside of the homes on the
corner. Yeah.
down
It
the
runs between property lines and wraps around down the back lot line.
Yeah, I don't know what point it goes that way, but assuming it's past it's at that lot, I'm assuming it's past that lot somewhere where it goes back and around the backside of the home.
Yeah, we don't have the power to vary it all from what the code says. That's a different body, and they're even quite restricted. I wouldn't suggest going that route because the arguments that we could write against a variance are pretty clear. It would make it really difficult. But if that's the route somebody wanted to take, I think it's an uphill battle, but it's not us to have that battle with. That would have to be our appeal authority. So, but right now, I just don't see how we can approve anything until we have some more information and there's a way to make it fit within the ordinance. So Rob, if you want to make your motion.
I'll make a motion that we continue this until a later date when builder and homeowners can resubmit a plan that hopefully falls in line with our code.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion by Rob Stapley, second by Max Cheers. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Voting was unanimous. So we'll wait till you get us something a little more detail.
Suggestions like I'm almost 100% sure I can't bring it closer to the garage. Can't. Like it would be knowing that building right off the property line and bringing something up is the only thing I can think of. If we had a drawing for that to show that, I think getting close to acceptable. Where we have another wall right off the property line and then terrace it up, another concrete wall, so that we're only showing 6 feet of the actual retaining wall on the south side. Am I headed the right direction? Something like that.
Well, our problem is it doesn't say that we have any wiggle room. Our problem is it says that walls over 6 feet tall have to be 10 feet off your sideline. And so if you can do something that works within some kind of terracing, but in 3 feet, that's going to be really tricky to do as well. So that's why I don't know, but we don't have any room to say, yeah, that almost meets it. we have to say, yep, that meets it, or sorry, it doesn't. So,
The other thing to keep in mind is 30 feet might be a little more than you need because a parking stall in a parking lot only has 24 feet to back into. So, I mean, keep that in mind. When you back out of a parking stall in a standard parking lot, you're backing into a 24-foot aisle. And I would agree that 30 is better, but you might be able to cheat that a little bit, is all I'm saying. A
There's
little
quite a
bit.
few of these designs that are really quick 90s in the driveways. I'd say that it's not necessarily desirable, but there is quite a few that are turning sharp in the garage. Get on the slopes, that's where it gets a little side and track. Troubleshoot, and it's tough on this one.
But yeah, 33 feet off the property, you go 10 feet from that, then you'd only be 23 feet to the base of the wall or to the, that's it. I don't think you can get to 10 feet. So I think you're gonna have to figure out somehow to terrace or do something like that to get the wall so that it meets the 6-foot height, or 2 walls less than 6 feet, potentially.
Is the house, having been up, the house isn't built, where it's built.
House is framed. House itself is framed.
I mean, I was just thinking if the garage was on a 45 instead of on a direct south, your turn radius would be easier coming in on an angle on the house rather than doing a full 90. That's why I asked. But it's framed. So
It's over the garage is. Supposed to be a little bit higher than what you normally have. I don't, I'm leaving not knowing what to do. That's probably, that's hoping to have some questions or something.
I should work on it, on it.
All right, well, thank you.
all right. Maybe when you go talk to your engineer, maybe they will be able to think something through and have a really great plan for you. So we have a fine line when it's talking about how much we're telling you as far as what meets the code. We have to be really careful to not tell you exactly how to do it. That's not our side of the fence. Our side is to look at your different proposals and say, this one and this one meet the code, this one doesn't. So,
No, I appreciate it.
all right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. That was
I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
motion to adjourn. Rob Stapley, second. Max Pierce, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? This